There's a truth no one will tell you until it's too late. If you don't lead, the marriage will rot from the inside out. Quietly, slowly. Then, all at once. Not with betrayal, but with neglect. Not with shouting, but with silence. She will not scream. She will not beg. She will not announce her departure. She will disappear while standing right in front of you, because when a man refuses to lead, a woman is forced to become something she was never meant to be, the container of everything, the decision maker, the emotional regulator, the planner, the fixer, the initiator, the parent of the household and of you. And the thing about women is, they'll carry it all for a while. They'll lift what you drop. They'll soften what you harden. They'll hold the family, the home, the rhythm, even as it crushes their essence. But one day, they stop. Not because they're weak, but because their soul knows it was never designed to carry both roles forever. She wasn't made to lead both herself and the man she trusted to protect her from the world, and worse, from the weight of her own masculine. You see, leadership isn't about dominance. It's not about barking orders or micromanaging emotions. Leadership in the sacred domain of marriage is about direction. It's about embodying clarity when everything around her is chaos. It's about moving toward truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it threatens the ego, even when it breaks your pride. Because a man who doesn't lead creates a void. And nature, God, the universe, they all hate a void. That space will be filled by anxiety, by resentment, by confusion, by masculine energy she never wanted to activate in the first place. And the tragedy is, most men don't see it happening until she's already gone, because they were taught that presence was enough. That provision was love. That silence was stability. But presence without leadership is passive. Provision without direction is chaos wrapped in comfort. And silence? Silence is a vacuum that devours her voice. The feminine does not thrive in ambiguity. It needs to be held, not controlled, not caged. Held in truth, held in clarity, held in the unwavering energy of a man who knows who he is, where he's going, and what he stands for. A man who leads not from arrogance, but from alignment. Not from fear, but from vision. Not to impress, but to protect. And if you are not that man, not yet, then hear this. You are not broken, but you are asleep. And sleep is dangerous when others are depending on your direction. Because when you won't decide, someone else will. She will. And she'll resent you for it. Not openly, but in those small, quiet moments that add up over years. In the way her touch withdraws. In the way her tone shifts. In the way her eyes stop looking at you with trust and start scanning you for weakness. She may still love you, but she won't relax into you. And once a woman cannot rest in a man's energy, the polarity dies. And without polarity, all you have is logistics, co-parenting, bills, meals, dead sex and fake smiles, a roommate, a business partner, a ghost of what could have been. So lead, not with bravado, not with force, but with presence, with consistency. With the kind of grounded, immovable energy that makes your nervous system exhale. Not because you're perfect, but because you decide. Because you listen, you adjust, you move. Because when things are spinning out of control, your feet are on the ground, your eyes are forward, your hands are open, and she knows, I can follow that. That's what she's craving. Not perfection, direction. That's what restores the order. That's what heals the polarity. That's what brings back the respect. Because no matter what culture tells you, she wants to surrender. Not her power, her tension, but only to a man who knows where he's going, who knows what he stands for, who doesn't flinch when she tests or cry when she pulls away. And if you don't become that man, someone else will. And she will follow him, not out of disloyalty, out of instinct. Because the feminine follows energy, not promises. And energy doesn't lie. She can feel the difference between a man who's grounded and a man who's guessing, between a man who leads with presence and one who leads with pressure, between a man who moves from internal conviction and one who only reacts to her moods. She knows it instinctively, in her bones, because she was born to be led not in submission but in sacred trust, the kind of trust that says, I can let go because he's already holding it. But if you refuse to hold it, she will. She will take the lead. She will map the path. She will carry the weight, not because she wants to, but because she must. Because the alternative waiting for a man who never steps forward is spiritual starvation. You think she's cold? No. She's tired. Tired of hinting. Tired of suggesting. Tired of mothering a man who calls himself her husband. And every time you hesitate, every time you defer, avoid, collapse into whatever you want, babe, a part of her shuts down. A part of her says, I can't trust him. And trust is not about loyalty. Trust is about depth. Trust is a ability to soften into you, to relax the constant vigilance of having to be everything. When you stop leading, she starts guarding. And the guarded woman is not who you fell in love with. The guarded woman is not sensual. She's efficient. She's not romantic. She's responsible. She doesn't play. She plans. And you'll notice it in the subtle withdrawal, in the edge to her voice, in the way her body stops responding to your touch. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she's exhausted from carrying the masculine. The tragedy? She won't tell you. Not directly, not loudly. She'll hint. She'll give you chances. She'll wait for years, maybe. But make no mistake. Every day you refuse to lead is another day she builds a world where she doesn't need you anymore. And when that world is complete, she's gone. Not physically. At first, she'll still be there. But her essence vanished. Because when a woman loses the ability to trust her man's leadership, the relationship becomes a negotiation, not a union. It becomes management, delegation, schedules, responsibilities, but no polarity, no passion, no presence. Just a dead ritual of routine where no one's really living, just surviving each other. You want to fix it? Then lead. Lead yourself first. Because leadership doesn't start with controlling her. It starts with commanding your own soul. It starts with taking ownership of your thoughts, your purpose, your direction, your emotional state. It starts with clarity, knowing where you're going, what you're building, who you are when the storms come. And from there, you extend that clarity outward. You hold her confusion without absorbing it. You navigate disagreement without losing presence. You lead through chaos without becoming chaotic. That's what she's watching for. She doesn't need you to be right. She needs you to be rooted. She needs to feel that when the world shakes, you won't crumble. And when she tests you, and she's not trying to destroy you. She's trying to find out if there's anything real behind your chest. She's trying to know, can I trust him when I can't trust myself? Can I fall apart in his presence and know he won't retreat? Can I surrender? Not because I'm weak, but because his strength calls me home. And if the answer is no, if you flinch, if you flee, if you turn her expression of pain into an attack on your masculinity, you lose her, bit by bit, test by failed test. Until one day, you wake up next to a stranger and wonder why she looks at you like a man she can't follow. So stop asking for her submission if you haven't earned her trust. Stop demanding respect if you won't first respect yourself enough to lead with purpose. Stop blaming her disconnection when you've been disconnected from your own mission for years. This isn't about control. It's about container. It's about being the space where her feminine can bloom, not because you force it, but because your presence invites it. And if you can do that, if you can lead not from fear, but from vision, she will follow, not because she has to, but because she wants to, because her soul was waiting for the day you remembered who you are. She was waiting for the day you returned to your throne. Not the throne of dominance, but the throne of divine masculinity. The place inside you where clarity lives, where direction is not a burden, but a birthright, where responsibility isn't resentment, it's reverence. She was waiting for the day you stopped hiding behind easygoing, behind I just want peace, behind the lie that passivity is kindness. Passivity is not kindness. It's cowardice, dressed in politeness. And she can feel the difference. Because a man who leads from love, from grounded certainty, from embodied presence, makes her feel safe. Not safe like locked doors and paid bills. Safe like the ground beneath her won't vanish when she finally lets go. Safe like she can descend into her depths, her chaos, her creativity, her emotion, and you'll be there, unmoved, unshaken, because you've made peace with your own shadow, because you've walked into your own fire and returned with the authority of someone who no longer runs. This is what leadership is. It's not being louder. It's not being richer. It's not being the man of the house. It's being the man who can hold the storm in her, the storm in life, the storm in yourself. And do you know what happens when you hold it? She softens. Not immediately, not dramatically, not like in the movies, but slowly, gently, like thawing ice, returning to water. She will begin to trust, not your words, your energy, because energy doesn't lie, and she feels everything. She will test you, yes, but only because she wants to see what's real. Can you stay steady when her emotions spike? Can you make decisions that serve the family, not just your pride? Can you take the lead on the little things, the hard conversations, the daily rhythms, the vision of the life you're building? Not to prove your manhood, but because your soul knows it's time. Because you're done watching your marriage drift into duty and your wife drift into numbness. Because you're done mistaking her exhaustion for independence. Because you're done waiting for her to come to you when all along she was waiting for you to come back to yourself. This is your moment, not to dominate, to define the direction, the standard, the tone, not by controlling her, by mastering you. Because the greatest leaders don't lead with commands. They lead by example. So show her. Show her what steadiness looks like. Show her what devotion feels like, not just when it's romantic, but when it's ordinary. Show her what integrity is, the kind that holds firm, even when she's emotional, even when she's distant, even when she's lost faith. Not to fix her, to guide her back to herself by being the man who never left his post. And in that, she will find her rest again. In that, she will remember her softness. In that, she will no longer have to carry what was never hers. And she will follow, because she'll know, not by your words, not by your demands, but by your presence, that you are finally leading. And when you lead, truly lead not with noise, not with ego, but with the quiet thunder of purpose everything begins to shift. She starts to breathe differently around you. Not shallow and guarded, but deep, relaxed, and surrendered. Like her body finally trusts what her mind doubted for so long. She starts to look at you differently. Not with suspicion, but with reverence. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. Because she can feel that you're no longer drifting, you're anchored. You stop waiting to be told what to do. You've stopped outsourcing your decisions. You've stopped chasing comfort and calling it love. You've become the mountain she can lean into. Not because she's weak, but because she's strong enough to finally rest. That's what your leadership gives her. Not subservience. Safety. Not obedience. Openness. And now, the marriage that once felt like management begins to feel like movement. Not perfect, not without storms, but alive. Because leadership revives what passivity kills. It reintroduces direction into dead spaces. It resurrects polarity from emotional collapse. It breathes structure into chaos. And structure is not oppression, it's freedom. It's the invisible skeleton that allows the feminine to dance. It's the container that allows her to flow, to create, to seduce, to nurture, not because she has to, but because she gets to. Because the one thing more attractive to a woman than passion is certainty. Certainty in yourself, in your values, in your word, in your vision. Not because you're never wrong, but because when you are, you own it. You adjust. You lead again. That's the kind of man she follows. Not the perfect one, the present one. The one who sees further than today's drama. The one who protects the future without panicking in the present. The one who creates the emotional architecture for her to surrender while trusting that if she falls, he'll still be standing. That is what makes her want to give you everything. Not because she's programmed to, because her heart remembers. Remembers the design of a sacred union before the world distorted it with power games and politics, where the masculine leads with integrity, where the feminine follows with freedom, where trust flows not from titles, but from truth, and know where you are. At the doorway of that truth, no more excuses, no more waiting, no more watching her drift and wondering why she doesn't smile like she used to. It's not too late, but it will be if you don't step in now. If you don't reclaim the role the marriage has been begging you to take up, not as dictator, not as savior, as leader, as the one who holds the center when everything else spins, as the one who speaks when silence becomes avoidance, as the one who chooses growth over ego and presence over power. Because if you don't lead, the marriage will collapse into chaos, and she'll leave, not to punish you, to preserve herself. But if you lead, if you decide today to rise to the calling that's been echoing in your chest since before you even knew what manhood was, she'll follow. Because the feminine always knows when it is safe to surrender. And now she watches quietly, not with words, but with her whole body, her whole heart, her whole being, asking one silent question that determines everything. Can I trust him now? Answer her without speaking. Answer her with how you show up tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, not with promises, with presence, not with domination, with devotion, not with performance, with power, because the time for waiting is over. Now is the moment you lead. Lead not just when it's easy, not just when she's soft and smiling, not just when the house is quiet and life is calm. Lead when she tests you. Lead when she's distant, when she's in a storm, when everything in you wants to pull away or lash out or shut down. Lead especially then. Because leadership in love is not about control, it's about consistency. It's about being the steady presence when everything around you trembles. The force that doesn't flinch when things fall apart. Because here's what they never taught you. Love isn't built in the highs, it's revealed in the lows. Any man can play the leader when she's in her light, when the path is clear, when the days are simple. But real leadership is forged when things go dark, when she questions you, when she withdraws her trust to see if it was ever safe to give it in the first place. When she loses faith, not just in you, but in men, in marriage, in herself, and in those moments, what she needs is not a perfect man, but a present one, a man who doesn't collapse, a man who doesn't make her pain about himself, a man who can hold space, take feedback, and still lead without retreating into defensiveness. Because the man who can lead in those moments is a rare man. A man who knows that leadership is not about avoiding conflict, but about walking through it with vision. A man who understands that marriage is not a reward, it's a responsibility, a divine assignment to create safety for another soul. And not just physical safety, emotional safety. That's what she's watching for. Not your dominance, not your income, not your promises, your emotional authority. Can you stay calm when she cannot? Can you own your reactions? Can you protect her heart when she's too tired to protect it herself? That's leadership. It doesn't scream. It doesn't boast. It just is. And when you step into that kind of leadership, everything changes. She stops guarding. She stops overfunctioning. She stops trying to fill in the blanks of your indecision, because finally she can exhale. She can return to her feminine. She can soften, receive, bloom, not because you forced her to, but because she feels your energy and knows, I'm safe here. And when a woman feels safe, she gives everything. Her loyalty, her body, her truth, her fire, her love. And not because you asked, but because you led. This is what you were made for. Not comfort, not silence, not passivity, but presence. The kind of presence that makes her feel seen even in her darkest hour. The kind that holds her chaos without judgment. The kind that guides her not because she's lost, but because she's ready to rest. And now you know. Now the illusion is broken. Now the mirror is clear. And there's no more pretending you didn't see what she needed all along. Now, there's only one question. Will you lead? Or will you let it all collapse while she walks away, not because she stopped loving you, but because she could no longer trust you to carry what love demands? Because, make no mistake, if you don't lead, something will. And it won't be truth. It'll be resentment, confusion, chaos. But if you lead, if you truly lead with presence, with purpose, with power anchored in peace, she will follow, not behind you, beside you. And that is where the real marriage begins. And now you stand at the edge of a choice that will define everything. Not just your marriage, your manhood. Will you wait until she's gone to become the man she was praying you'd rise into? Or will you decide here, now, to lead? Not for applause, not for reward, but because the fire inside your soul will no longer tolerate passivity, because you're done watching her carry the weight you were born to hold, because you're done living in a house full of silence, shame, and unspoken needs, because you remember now leadership isn't noise, it's alignment, it's integrity, it's choosing truth even when it hurts, it's showing up when it would be easier to disappear. It's standing tall when your own fears beg you to shrink. She doesn't need perfection. She doesn't need power plays. She needs you rooted, clear, unwavering. A man she can trust. A man who doesn't just say, I've got us, but proves it with every word, every action, every breath. This is your moment to rise, to lead, to carry the weight with sacred hands. Not because she's fragile, but because she's fierce. And fierce women only surrender to men who make surrender feel like freedom, not sacrifice. So lead her not by force. Lead her by standing so fully in your truth she has no choice but to return to hers. Lead her by becoming the mountain she can finally rest against And if you do, if you lead now, not tomorrow, not someday, but now, she will follow. And you will have not just a marriage, you will have a kingdom.